The most fruit comes out of a place from doing something that you didn't feel good about doing. You didn't feel comfortable doing it. You didn't feel it. I wasn't feeling it. Well, actually, just make up your mind to do that thing and do the steps that it takes to make that thing happen.
Welcome to the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast, where business success meets personal purpose. Here we empower entrepreneurs to strike that perfect balance between massive growth and unwavering values. Dive deep into strategies, inspirations, and stories that ensure you set your foundation in faith and don't compromise your family on your ascent to the top. Welcome back to the Maverick Entrepreneur, where in this episode, we are going to talk about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I can tell you this, as an entrepreneur, you might as well just get used to it, unless you don't want to be successful. Any successful entrepreneur will tell you there has been moments in life that far outweigh all the moments of being comfortable. And so it has to just be in your DNA, in your thought process that, you know what? It's just about to get uncomfortable. I can tell you when I work out, I know it's hard to tell right now, but you're not going to get the gains unless you get uncomfortable. No one says, oh, I think I'm going to get ripped, and they never break a sweat. You're going to have to break a sweat in order to get the gains that you want when you're in the gym. The same is true in business. You got to get uncomfortable. Put yourself out there. Put your brand out there. Put your name out there. Put yourself out there in order to achieve the success that you're looking for. Babe, I know you have lots of stories being married to me this long. Why don't you share a few with everybody? I'm sure they love to hear your perspective.
Can I give you some advice?
Oh, wow. Here we go.
You're talking about being uncomfortable, like working out and all that. You have to get comfortable not eating sourdough bread while you're working out.
I know. You just want to get me blasted this quick?
No, it's just sourdough. It's innocent sourdough. Just saying.
Well, that sourdough's really good.
I'm your helpmate. I'm just trying to help you.
When you own a restaurant called the Sourdough Company, you just get addicted to sourdough.
It's just part of your everything.
Maybe I shouldn't have started opening those sandwich shops, and I wouldn't be addicted to sourdough.
Yeah, I think it's a thing.
All right.
But yeah, actually, I mean, the theme of my life is do it afraid. And even marrying somebody that was a lot more comfortable, Dr. Matt, being a lot more comfortable in social settings, I was never that way. And so coming into this relationship, I quickly learned that I was going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable in basically every setting that I entered. And so we would go out places, even social events, we would go to weddings, we would go to dinner, and he would be talking to strangers and I would be dying on the inside. For one reason, I wanted to spend time with my husband, and the second was that I had no idea how to relate with a stranger. But it's just been consistency, really stepping out and saying, I'm just going to do that thing that feels really like I don't want to, and I'm just going to step into something I'm afraid of. And it's really just comes down to choosing to do the things that make you uncomfortable and putting yourself in those situations. Because oftentimes I find in my own life that I show up better than I even thought I could. And so it's just being consistent and saying, if something on the inside of you says, oh, I don't want to do that, that just sounds so uncomfortable, do that thing. Do that thing. It's the same in every area of life. Like, do I want to go to the gym later today? I already had the thought. I wonder if I can find a reason to not go. But no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to go because I decided that I want to do the things that's going to make me better and step into those areas. Public speaking, I used to be terrified of, and now my husband puts me on videos and I get uncomfortable doing that. And here I am doing it. And so just do it. Do it afraid and see what comes out of it.
I love that. Be afraid, take a step anyways. You know, I love that, babe. It's you said something so important. It's be afraid and take a step anyways. I think that's so true in our personal life. You know, we're trying to build big people. And when you build yourself, what happens is you'll be more bold in every area of your life. The one thing about you, babe, you were very disciplined. So I know once you make up your mind, some people call it stubborn, but once you make up your mind, she goes after it. And you will never grow. All growth happens outside the comfort zone. We've heard that tagline, but what's that really mean? And so when you come down to your own business, you actually have to get out of the way. And that is uncomfortable for people. And people go like this. They always say this. The number one thing I hear when I do a lot of one-on-one coaching is, I just don't want to come across salesy. And I have to tell you, everything is sales. Everything is sales. And so if you look at anything you own, someone sold it to you. You either had to sell yourself on it or something. I don't care if it's your bed. You may have woke up going, I want a bed today. And then you went and bought a bed. But someone sold you that bed. So you have to understand that everything is sales. Jesus understood this. He was pretty much training up his disciples to sell the gospel, which is the good news. And if you suck at explaining or selling the good news, guess what? Nobody be saved. How did I become a Christian? Well, my parents kind of sold me the good news, and you should be pumped about the good news. How did I invite my wife to church? How did I even meet my wife? See, if I didn't get uncomfortable, I was at an airport. I got very uncomfortable looking at that cute little girl over there going, dang, I need to ask her out. And I could have sat there and got all nervous and got all scared and got in my head and never pulled the trigger, but I wouldn't be married with 3 kids and a beautiful life if I just didn't get the courage to go sell myself on why she needed to go out on a date with me. You know what? And she shot me down. Mm-hmm. But don't give up. Come on. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want success? How bad do you want that invite? How much do you want to get that next sale? I'm telling you, you got to learn to get over yourself. See, when you make it all about you, you will actually not put yourself out there. And it's really an insecurity that we got to work on, every entrepreneur out there. The book, The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, can help you get clarity on how to build up your self-esteem so you're not afraid to step out and give it a go. And then you know what? We're all going to face rejection. Why are you so scared of rejection? I was scared of rejection. She did reject me. I mean, she told me she was into me, but then she didn't call me. So, there could have been rejection. There could have been this whole thing where I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm never going to ask again. And then, 5 days later, she called me. It's like she watched the movie and says, never call the guy on the first day or something. She waited 5 days, which was, in my advice, a little too long, if I could have helped you out there.
I'm glad you got over it.
Yeah, I got over it, though, and I said, well, she's calling now. There must be something. And I had to go out there again and make myself uncomfortable. Remember, I drove all the way down to meet you in PB, which is like, you don't even know where PB is.
Yeah.
But I went all the way to Pacific Beach, met her randomly with all her friends, just walked into a place where they're all kind of partying, walked right up to her, introduced myself to all her friends. I mean,
Were you scared?
Putting myself out there. No, I psyched myself up in the car. I just said, you know what? I was made for this. She's going to be my wife, and I'm going to go let her know right now. Walked in, boldness, boom. Said hello, met all her friends, tried to be Mr. Congeniality, got over my fear, got over my insecurities, put myself out there because guess what? My desire was to meet someone amazing and one day marry that person. Dating with the intent to marry. I just didn't want another cute girl. I wanted that girl. And so I had to get bold on the inside, and then I had to go figure out some sales. And you know what? Now we're sitting here.
Here we are.
Here we are.
You sold me.
I sold you.
And you did it afraid.
And I did it afraid. And then I had to be bold again and say, you could be the devil for all I know. You need to come to church with me on Sunday. And she said yes. And I'm telling you, that wasn't comfortable either. And then she came. So it's all these things that lined up, these little micro wins. Most people, entrepreneurs, aren't used to winning, but you got to start off. It's not like I knew she was afraid to publicly speak. I knew she was afraid to put herself up. So I didn't just say, hey, you're going to go with me to this thing and go to this training and I'm going to put you on stage. No, it started real small. Your first one was you just sat behind the desk and signed people up for a seminar.
Yep.
Was that a stretch?
Yep. So anything I got asked to do that had to do with people, I was like, I could shy away in a hot second or just do it.
Yeah. We can all make excuses. What I loved about you is you'd be afraid and say yes anyways. She just said yes. And I knew if I could let her get micro wins, she could see the gold on the inside of her. But if you're just saying, I see you as a pastor one day preaching from platforms in front of thousands of people, she would have been like, you're crazy.
And someone did say that. And I was like, no, that's all right. I'm good.
Yeah, you are good. And that would have never happened, but because she got those micro wins. So I would just set yourself up, not for these big, go for it. I'm not expecting, it's like working out. If you've never benched before, I'm not going to put 300 pounds on the bar and say, hey, lift that for me. You won't be able to do it. I'm just saying, get the little wins. What are things you can do every single day? I used to start with 25-point spreadsheet of 25 things I could do every single day consistently that would build up my brand, that would build up my referral network, 25 points a day. And that was my goal. And I would score 25 points a day for 30 days. And if I missed a day, I'd start all over. And I'm going to tell you, it took me months months to get through 30 days because I kept hitting a glitch and I kept hitting a wall and I couldn't get through. Finally, one day I said, that's enough is enough. I'm scoring 25 points every single day. And I gamified everything. And when you learn to gamify it, it takes your mind out of the intimidation factor. You play the game with yourself and success leaves clues. Anything you do consistently wise, you will win. It's just don't give up, don't fall short, don't keep trying, don't keep applying. And you're a walking testimony of that, babe. You know, as I look back over just kind of like our entrepreneurial walk, I mean, you've done so many cool things. I remember when you were first out of college and I was just we were trying to figure it out for you because you thought I was crazy. I was just like, oh, so she went and got a job.
Well, I worked in your office.
Yeah.
And then one day I quit because I was frustrated. And then I came back and then that day you fired me.
Yeah.
And then the next day I quit.
Yeah.
And we just decided that wasn't healthy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't good for our marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In that season.
To have an employee piping off all the time, telling you how to run your business, never works, especially when it's your wife. So we were trying to work that out, navigate newlyweds and bringing her in to help me run my office. That was interesting. But you just don't know what you don't know.
Fascinating.
Fascinating is very true. Fascinating is another word we use for frustration, just so you know, because I don't really like that word frustration. When people use that word frustration, it has meanings to everybody. And so when I am frustrated, I just look at my wife and go, that's fascinating, which means I'm frustrated. But when you say it, I'm fascinated, you have to laugh at yourself, but you got to always ask yourself, why am I frustrated right now? And when you put yourself out there in business, you will have times of frustration that you have to re-gamify. And so one of my biggest things is just saying every time I was frustrated in business or putting myself out there trying to close a deal or whatever it was, I just have to say, man, that's fascinating. I wonder why that happened that way. And one of them was, you got a job, you remember this, with the Fleetwood.
Yep.
It was a restaurant downtown. You were going to be an event coordinator. She'd never done anything like that in her life. She was just finding herself, wasn't that outspoken, just really sweet and pretty and not really,
Just. Now you want me to be as sweet and pretty.
I know. I mean, you're so feisty now.
Oh, maybe I talk too much
we
now.
overcompensated. No, but anyways, tell about that experience and then how you turn that in. You're like #1 all-star.
Wow. Thanks, babe.
Yeah.
So I just started applying for jobs online and the whole time going for interviews and being really nervous, all the while knowing I could always fall back on being an employee at True Chiropractic, which would be awesome too, but felt like I really needed to find my own way and build some confidence in myself. And so I applied for this job. And luckily, I think they interviewed like 100 and something people.
Yep.
And I became their event coordinator and I was so pumped. I was so excited, but I didn't know what I was doing. Looking back.
Were you uncomfortable?
So uncomfortable.
What do you know? And you did it anyways.
I was so uncomfortable, had no idea, like, where do I start? What do I do? And to be an event coordinator is like more of a sales job. So this was a new restaurant with this huge event space in the back. And they just showed me the event space and they said, we just want you to book this out. Like, we just need you to book this place out all the time. And I'm like, okay.
Good thing I had a lot of friends.
Great. And so I just went on this journey. I had to go to all these social clubs they had downtown, like all these meetings to meet other event coordinators. I totally was outside my comfort zone, meeting strangers, selling something to people that I was just now learning about myself. And because I continued to step in the right direction and do the right thing, even though I didn't want to or feel comfortable doing it, actually was a really fruitful job and really fun. And I really enjoyed it so much that a couple of years after we got our own event space and I ran that event space and
Lounge
crushed it.
SD, you crushed
Lounge
that.
SD. And this was before we had kids. So I was going downtown and selling events and running weddings and having the most amazing event space, this little secret hidden jewel. Made a website for it and really learned my way through that, but became comfortable after being uncomfortable because I just kept going with it and kept doing what I thought would be cool and what I thought would be the right thing to do. And so that was really fun. And then we had kids and then my whole life changed.
No, I remember that Lounge SD. I mean, I remember when our security guard called me and said, dude, Johnny Depp's in your lounge right now. I'm like, yes, Johnny Depp's in our lounge right now. You're crushing it, babe. But it was funny because when she started, I remember she had a couple choices. She could be afraid or she could just go after it. And she turned that restaurant into like one of the top event spaces downtown, to the point where 2 years later, and it was just an unhealthy environment. It was just so party.
It was a club bar.
It was a club bar, but she ended up leaving there, and they were so distraught because they couldn't find anybody like her, that they actually tried suing us because we started our own lounge. And we just had to let them know what was up. But that was an amazing time. You did an amazing job.
Yeah, I did that. And then we had our first baby. So I went into mom mode. Also had no idea what I was doing. And then figured that out. And then they offered me the position at church to oversee the kids area, to become the kids pastor.
Never done anything like it. You barely even liked kids.
I'm like, why aren't you interviewing me for the events team? Like, I do events.
Yeah.
And no, it was, we want you to be the kids pastor.
Yep.
And I just didn't even know if I liked kids. Like, kids made me really uncomfortable. I was just now learning how to like kids because I had two small ones of my own.
Yep.
And it was after Maverick was just born. He was only like 3 months at that time. And when they asked me to do it, I'm like, do they know that I don't even know how to operate with kids? Like, do they know that?
Yeah. Well, the good thing about you, babe, is that you said yes. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs just, they feel like they have a calling. They feel like they have a purpose. They feel like they want to step out there, but they let fear grip them. And, I always know, you've heard it before, 1,000 people said it, fear stands for false evidence appearing real. And you just would always sit down, breathe, and say, all right, if I say yes, I'll figure it out. And I just think that as an entrepreneur, just knowing that it's part of being successful is saying yes. I always say, once you lick the lollipop of mediocrity, you suck forever. And most people just want to be in their comfort zone, and that's mediocrity. And you can't be successful if you just stay at that realm of being comfortable. You got to know every week, what's one thing I could do? Maybe it's dating. You got to get uncomfortable. Just the more you get out there and date, guess what? It will become comfortable. It's like when I was going to speak my first time, and I had to wear this, it was like a black tie event. I'd never worn a tux like that. I was more uncomfortable in the tux, but then you're like, put it on, you're like James Bond, you're like, man, I kind of like this. So how do you have to wrap your head around doing things to get you in that uncomfortable zone and make it comfortable? And when you get there, it's about just keep showing up and be yourself. I think if you could just be yourself and know that you had this dream on the inside, nothing will stop you. And that was you. Kids church, you said yes, and then you figured it out. Then after that, was the next thing is, we got asked to be pastors and, run a church. And we both, for years, she was telling me, oh, we're called to be pastors. We got prophesied over everything. I'm like, nope. And then one day we got asked, and then I knew I had to say yes. And then when we said yes, it's be afraid, figure it out. And I'll never forget, on my first way, on the drive up to our campus, our new campus, we were getting prayed in. I was just going, the devil was in my ear telling me I was a loser, that no one was going to like me, that everybody was ticked, that they were all sold out for the other pastor. I mean, all this internal dialogue. I had to step up on that stage and do it afraid. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that campus ended up exploding. Mm-hmm. God sent us the most amazing people, and it's because of the faithfulness of saying yes. If you can't say yes, you're never going to win. You're never going to get the amen behind it unless you say yes. So I would just say the first thing is saying yes. And the Bible says, the good book says, the Lord directs your steps. So what are you worried about? If you are listening, if you say yes, God's going to open a door. He's going to put your hand on the door. It's the doorman principle, but you actually have to turn it. It says God's going to knock. He's going to keep knocking, but he's not going to push the door open. He's not going to crack it down. No, he's going to wait for you to open it. How many doors have you had the opportunity to open and you let fear take over? Mm-hmm. Your hand wouldn't be on that doorknob if it wasn't supposed to be opened. So be afraid and open that door anyways. And if you can open that door and walk through it, on the other side of it is blessing. On the other side of it is wisdom. On the other side of it are people that want to cheer you on, even if you don't believe that. They will be there. Winning has a formula, and it's just about being bold and courageous and saying yes. You think that's right?
That's amen. That's right. And also, oftentimes feelings can be our worst enemy. And so if you're that person that's always stuck in, well, I just didn't feel it, I wasn't feeling it, I want to say to you today, if you've made up your mind that God's given you a dream, God's given you an idea, then don't base your decisions off how you feel. Because oftentimes the most fruit comes out of a place from doing something that you didn't feel good about doing. You didn't feel comfortable doing it. You didn't feel it. I wasn't feeling it. Well, actually, just make up your mind to do that thing and do the steps that it takes to make that thing happen.
You know, one practical thing is, everybody talks about it, vision boards and putting the things out in front of you. So it's constantly in your subconscious mind that you have that vision out in front of you. So many people get focused, on their past or their letdowns or their failures or a bad relationship or whatever it is. But that's like them telling me, all they do in order to drive their car, they look in the rearview mirror all the time. Well, that's how you crash a car. That's how you crash your life. You can't think about the bad relationship, the bad business, the failed this, the failed that. God gave you a vision out in front of you, and you got to keep it out in front of you. It's like a windshield. How big's a windshield? Well, you should actually look out the windshield and focus most of your life looking out the windshield so you know where you're going. You won't mess up your life. But most people, when I talk to them, they are looking in the rearview mirror of their life and letting that dictate their future. So they're actually not even driving forward. They're driving forward, looking backwards, and they will crash. Anybody will crash. And so I would just tell you that's really practical. You got to keep your eyes forward. How do you do it? Put a vision board together. Oh, that's, you know what? That's kind of airy-fairy stuff. It's like The Secret. No, it's not. There is the red car theory. The red car theory is that if I asked you how many red cars did you see today, you probably honestly don't know and couldn't give me an answer. Babe, how many red cars did you see on the way to women's prayer?
No idea.
You had no idea. But if I told my kids or I told my wife, hey, for every red car you see today, I'm going to give you $100. How many know she's going to come home with a very specific number of red cars, right?
I saw 150.
Yeah, I bet you saw 150. Listen, because I intentionally said, I'm going to pay you, which is like, who doesn't want to be paid, for every red car you see, and I know she's in integrity, she's not going to lie to me, she will now intentionally look for red cars. So when you intentionally look for success, when you intentionally look for wins, when you intentionally look for opportunity, you will find it. She will intentionally look for that red car, and in the study, you would not believe how many people would see the red cars, because there was an attachment to intentionality and success to it. How many opportunities are walking right by you that you are not intentionally seeing because you're too focused in the rearview mirror of bad mistakes or bad relationships or upsets or money failures or whatever it is? Get unstuck from looking in the rearview mirror. Look forward, look for opportunities, look for that red car, and guess what? They will show up and present themselves every time. And then all you have to do is say yes. If you could say yes, then I promise you, you will step out. It will be uncomfortable for a moment, but then you're going to get your win. You will not hit a ball you don't swing at. You got to keep swinging. You got to believe. You got to go for it. If you need a coach, go to Deion Sanders. Start watching him. He is implementing every success trait there is about being uncomfortable, being consistent, showing up, saying yes, get over yourself, and make a difference. And I think that's what we're talking about today.
I like it.
You like it? Good. Well, hey, hopefully you got some nugget out of today. We're so glad you joined us here at the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast, and we look forward to our next episode. Stay tuned.